Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. Today we bring you some news, royal shock, dark truth behind Duchess of Kent's death stuns everyone. And source said that Catherine, Duchess of Kent's death was far worse than we thought. Everyone is astonished by this news. People have always thought of royal Catherine, Duchess of Kent as quietly powerful and gentle. For over 60 years, she combined her public duties with her inner beliefs. She was kind, enjoyed music, and did the right thing. People remember her for making strange decisions, such quitting the royal family, becoming a Roman Catholic, and teaching music to kids outside the palace. For many years, she did her regal responsibilities. Her narrative is about faith, courage, changing what it means to be a royal in today's world, and showing that little daily actions can have a big impact. Catherine Lucy. Mary Worsley was born into a wealthy family in Yorkshire and is related to Oliver Cromwell. She was raised with a sense of history and duty. Queen Elizabeth II's first cousin, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, married her. This made her a member of the royal family. Over time, she became well known at public events, especially Wimbledon, where her kindness to both victors and losers became legendary. She was quite depressed, had a long-term sickness, and had lost a child, but she hid it well in public. She learned about suffering from those hard times and built a life of helping others that went beyond what was expected of her. She didn't give up her public duties. Instead, she changed her priorities to focus on her own. She lived a quiet, honest life, balancing the requirements of an old institution with her own conscience. She stayed true to herself even though she married into the Windsors. It shows that little acts of kindness may have as much of an effect as big parties. Life and family at the beginning. On February 22, 1933, Catherine was born at Hovingham Hall, the family's Palladian home in North Yorkshire. The Worsleys have lived there since the 1700s. The home was more than just a place to live. It was the center of local tasks, social life, and stewardship. Rolling hills, little villages, and a community of estates surrounding it. If you grow up in Hovingham, you will live a rural English existence, attending events in the parish and county, holding formal dinners and fairs, and taking care of tenants and the grounds. The 4th Baronet and Joyce Morgan Brunner had 4 kids. However, this was their only girl. Her aristocratic background taught her to value responsibility and community involvement. As Lord Lieutenant of the North Riding, her father was the Queen's representative in Yorkshire. People in the area knew the family well because of their work with charities and in the community. The Worsley family was tied to Catherine via British history. Her father's family tree goes back to the 17th century, and connects them to Oliver Cromwell via Frances Cromwell, Lady Russell. Historians and family members enjoyed genealogical information because it showed how family histories are connected to national histories. The connection to powerful but unpopular Cromwell demonstrates how complicated British family history may be. But Catherine's feeling of belonging and duty was influenced by the ancestral note and the more immediate daily reality of living in the country, taking care of the estate, going to church and school, and living in a rural community. Catherine's mother's family was more interested in business than politics. Joyce Worsley was the daughter and granddaughter of Sir John Brunner, 2nd Baronet. Imperial Chemical Industries bought Brunner Mond, which was established by industrialist Sir John Brunner, 1st Baronet. Catherine was familiar with commercial manufacturing and industrial duties. Catherine's vision was made more difficult by the pride of the landed gentry and the pride of the working class. She was shaped by the conservative Yorkshire way of doing things and the idea that businesses have social responsibilities. Her love of music learning and helping others showed that she cared about her community in the past and now. On April 2, 1933, she was baptized at All Saints' Church in Hovingham. During the service, the family was quite active in the church. Her godparents were Sir Felix Brunner, 3rd Baronet, Major Sir Digby Lawson, 2nd Baronet, her aunt Lady Colgate, and Margaret Darcy Fife from Nunnington Hall. Baptism was one of several things that connected the family to the community. It showed how her own convictions and her duty as a citizen would affect her life. Improving your musical skills. Catherine's early schooling was different from what most people of her socioeconomic class would have had. She didn't go to school until 10. Instead, she spent her youth amid the garden stables and hamlet alleyways of Hovingham Hall. When I was young, I learned to enjoy nature and think about things. The family residence supported music, amateur theater, and other community activities that brought the estate and town together. Her practical upbringing was quite different from the life of an aristocracy she would later lead. She went to Queen Margaret's School in York initially, and then Runton Hill School in North Norfolk. Her love of music developed as she went through school. She learned to play the piano organ and violin and liked becoming better at them. In her final year at Runton Hill, she was named music secretary and was in charge of planning concerts and other musical events in Norwich. In that job, she employed her skills in organizing and her love of painting. Throughout her life, she was able to balance her love of teaching and performing with her work as an organizer. She was quite good in languages and the arts in school. She did well on her French oral test and her English literary grade, which shows that she is interested in more than just music. She wanted to be a professional musician and applied to the Royal Academy of Music, but they turned her down. She looked for other ways to learn music instead of quitting her job. She and her boys went to Oxford together. She went to Miss Hubler's finishing school at 22 Merton Street in Oxford. It was a small, personalized school with just a few students. Miss Hubler taught French literature, art, and history. A French teacher taught cooking, while a Viennese teacher taught music. In the little finishing school, Catherine became better in music and other useful abilities. Her love of great musicians changed the way she thought about music. Jacqueline Dupre's music made her feel things. The cellist's genius shaped a generation, and her terrible illness became a cultural landmark. Later, Catherine collaborated on Christopher Nupin's Who is Jacqueline Dupre, talking about how the cellist changed them. She thinks that great music can change lives and that it is both an artistic and moral duty to find and encourage talent. Before she married and joined the royal family, Catherine worked in care and as a teacher. She worked in a nursery school in London and a children's home in York, which showed that she was naturally good at teaching and caring for kids. She learned how to talk to kids and boost their confidence via compassion, encouragement, and music during these meetings. Because of her big roles and her knowledge of music, she became a regal presence and a devoted teacher. Meeting the Duke and being married at York Minster, Catherine's life altered when she met Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. The Duke was born in 1935. Prince George, Duke of Kent, and Princess Marina of Greece and Denmark were his parents. He was their first child. As a first cousin of Queen Elizabeth II, he was a significant member of the royal family. They met when he was at Catterick Camp with the Royal Scots Greys. This big building was close to Catherine's residence in Yorkshire. A connection between a wealthy local family and a senior royal got a lot of attention and resulted to an engagement. They were married in York Minster on June 8, 1961. It was the first royal wedding there since King Edward III married Philippa of Hainault in 1328. York Minster, the setting for the occasion, linked a contemporary royal wedding to old traditions and English church architecture. The cathedral's big nave, old stonework and stained glass, and the march of flags and soldiers in uniform made for a beautiful melancholy scene that was extensively covered and observed throughout the country. There were a lot of people at the wedding and a lot of media attention. Sir William Worsley, Catherine's father, gave her away. Prince Michael of Kent, the Duke's younger brother, was his best man. Princess Anne was the young bridesmaid. The event was overseen by York Archbishop Michael Ramsay, who gave it spiritual depth and continuity. The Duke's mother, Princess Marina, and notable artists and performers like Noel Coward and Douglas Fairbanks, Jr. were among the guests. Because of the magnificent setting and notable attendees, the wedding was a national event for the monarchy. Irish couturier John Kavanagh made Catherine's wedding dress. He had worked with Edward Molyneux and was in the same professional group as the famed couture designers. The garment was made of white silk gauze and had a high neckline, long sleeves, and a wide skirt. It had a train that was 15 feet long. The fact that it was made from 273 yards of cloth made it seem better. Her mother-in-law, Princess Marina, had the Kent diamond and pearl-fringed tiara, which held her veil and made her wedding seem regal. Catherine's wedding ceremony introduced her to the House of Windsor and set the stage for her public career. Family and getting married young, the Duke's military career and growing royal duties were balanced when the couple had a family after they were married. The family welcomed their first child, George Earl of St. Andrews, on June 26, 1962, at Coppins Ivor, Buckinghamshire. George did what his family did and mixed old and new ways of learning. After going to Eton and Cambridge, he married Silvana Tomaselli, a scholar with connections across the world. On April 28, 1964, Lady Helen, their second child, was born at Coppins. Designers and creative organizations took note of her fashion and artwork. Thereafter, she married Timothy Taylor, an art trader. Their youngest child, Lord Nicholas Windsor, was born on July 25, 1970, at King's College Hospital in London. His conversion to Roman Catholicism and marriage at the Vatican would cause his mother to have serious faith and conscience concerns. The family's childhood were formed by military operations. As a military family, they resided in Germany and Hong Kong. The Duke was gone from home for significant periods of time. Because of these absences, Catherine frequently had to take care of the kids and the home by herself. This was hard since she had to keep things stable and comfortable in a place that was often changing. She learned to be strong by combining her obligations as a duchess with her family life and making sure the family home was ready for guests and family life. The pair went to Commonwealth events and visits on behalf of Queen Elizabeth II. They went to the ceremonies for Uganda's independence in 1962 and Tonga's coronation in 1967. These jobs needed a certain level of formality and a real interest in other cultures. The Duchess took her work seriously. She talked with local authorities, went to schools and hospitals, and helped with British diplomatic and humanitarian work in other countries. These trips showed that the royal stance is worldwide and that friendly royal visits may help with soft diplomacy. Their principal home in London was Wren House, which was built in the 18th century and is on the grounds of Kensington Palace. A family that wanted to be in the public limelight but still wanted their own space required a residence that was close to royal institutions, but not too close. From 1972 until 1990, they rented Anmer Hall, a private country house in Norfolk on the Sandringham estate. The family had a peaceful place to rest outside of London. Anmer Hall was a private home where people could garden, play music, and have small parties that showed off their private lives. Personal tragedy, mental health. The family had to deal with emotional suffering and civic duty. In 1975, the Duchess had rubella and lost her baby. In 1977, 2 years later, the baby was stillborn. Patrick was the name his family gave him. The losses hit her hard at a time when mental illness was looked down upon. In a 1997 interview, she spoke about the event and its ramifications in an honest way. "It hurt me the most," she added. "I had no idea how devastating such a thing could be to any woman." The Duchess was one of the few famous individuals who spoke so frankly about loss and deep grief. Her disclosure transformed the way people spoke about mental health and made many question the idea that the royal family was always tranquil. Talking about grief and mental health became more acceptable when she shared her story. Those losses made her more aware of parents who were mourning and motivated her to help others. She subsequently worked with organizations that help people deal with emotional crises and sorrow, including the Samaritans, and she did it with a lot of personal empathy. This tremendous sorrow made her more aware of other people, thus her humanitarian activity was more than just official endorsements. They were real-life experiences, bad health and withdrawal. Catherine's health changed from time to time. She was in the hospital for many weeks in 1978 because of nervous strain. Later medical tests showed that she had celiac disease, an autoimmune ailment that affects digestion, and the Epstein-Barr virus, which may make you feel like you have ME or chronic fatigue syndrome. Because of these illnesses, they were too tired and feeble to keep up with the royal lifestyle. Someone who was busy and involved found it hard to deal with long-term tiredness, which is why she decided to quit making public appearances. This event from 1999 showed how Mrs. Kent always wanted individuals and organizations to be kind to her, but their strict regulations got in the way. After her friend's mother died, the Duchess asked her friend's 12-year-old son to sit in the royal box at Wimbledon to make him feel better. The All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club said no, since only royals are allowed to sit. The Duchess was upset that she couldn't sit in the royal box even though there were other tickets available. She is said to have vowed to boycott the royal box. The event showed that she cared more about comfort than rules, and that these ideals may not always match up with the rules of the organization. There was a trend in her life she liked to connect with others, yet it occasionally went against social norms. Wimbledon and the public role. For over 30 years, the Duchess was a royal. She was the Queen's representative at home and abroad and had many patrons. At Wimbledon, a lot of people loved her because her personality shone through. For over 30 years, she gave trophies to the winners of the All England Club. She showed her generosity and understanding by comforting losers, speaking kindly to runners-up, and even touching an arm to show how she felt. These minor things changed the event's formal tone and stuck with the people who were there and the fans. In the final images, she typically leaned in to say thank you or comfort someone. The people who took part remembered these headline-making actions fondly. Wimbledon gave her a chance to show how much she loved the emotional side of sports. She saw how hard her opponents worked and understood that sports are about more than just winning medals and trophies. To compete at the top level, they need to be brave, able to handle disappointment, and strong. People thought they would see the Duchess in the royal box at Wimbledon, and they liked how she made the competition seem more real. Becoming a Catholic. In the 1990s, the Duchess's spirituality changed. In January 1994, she became a Roman Catholic. Since the Act of Settlement in 1701, she was the highest-ranking member of the royal family to publicly become Catholic. The choice was made with a lot of thought and attention. The Queen, as the supreme governor of the Church of England, understood and allowed Catherine to alter her communion. Ecumenical grace shows how family members may form hidden deals with one another. That answer also showed how Britain became more tolerant of religion in the late 20th century. As usual, the Duchess was honest and funny about her conversion. She liked spiritual limits. She said in an interview, "I do love guidelines, and the Catholic Church gives you guidelines. I've always wanted that in my life." She liked it when people told her, "You have to go to church on Sunday," or else because it made her feel like she had to do something. This showed that she had thought carefully about such an important choice and valued order and clarity in religion. She converted on purpose because she wanted to be sure of her faith. The conversion was very important because of the constitutional and historical settings. The Act of Settlement 1701 sought to create a Protestant succession by keeping Roman Catholics off the throne and punishing Catholic marriages. When Catherine married, she was a member of the Church of England, therefore, her conversion did not change the Duke's succession. The couple didn't have to deal with constitutional concerns because of succession laws. However, the conversion was a sign of personal commitment and a change in the royal family's religious stance. Her conversion of religion had an effect on other family members. Lord Nicholas Windsor, her youngest son, and two of her grandchildren, Edward Windsor, Lord Downpatrick, and Lady Marina Windsor, became Catholics. Because Lord Downpatrick was Catholic, he could not be the next in line to the throne. Personal morals and laws that have been passed down don't always accord. Some of the effects were changed by changes in the law. The succession to the Crown Act 2013 altered that. Now those who married Catholics may become king or queen. The act made Catherine's oldest son, George, Earl of St. Andrews, the heir again. He lost it because he married a Catholic. The legislation still says that the sovereign must be in communion with the Church of England. The hard case on religion, marriage, and succession shows how people's religious beliefs may affect public constitutional institutions. Second act, music teaching and giving back. The Duchess went to events, supported causes, and traveled overseas for years. Unlike other senior royals, she became a music teacher at Wansbeck Primary School in Hull in 1996. For 13 years, she secretly taught piano to kids, and only the kids and staff at the school recognized her as Mrs. Kent. A lot of people felt it was refreshing and quietly rebellious that a duchess taught small groups of kids at a public elementary school. She tried to stay out of the spotlight in class so she could concentrate on music and studying instead of stardom. She taught as a job, not as a hobby. In interviews, she claimed she liked educating kids and sharing music with them. "It is a great privilege to be able to share your love of music with kids," she added. The Duchess thought that music could change lives, particularly for kids who wouldn't have had the chance to learn about the arts otherwise. She taught with love, respect, sincerity, and order. Her love of doing good things made her do good things outside of school. She was the president of the Royal Northern College of Music and the National Foundation for Youth Music from 1999 to 2007. She started Future Talent in 2004 to help bright, low-income musicians develop via scholarships, instrument loans, and coaching. The group's goal was to do rid of financial and practical obstacles that made it hard for young people to learn music. The Duchess went to shows, spoke to people, met new artists, and pushed for more money for music education. She gave money and time to the charity she liked most. She helped people who weren't in her bands get gigs. She backed Making Music BBC Young Musician of the Year and other music programs for kids. She liked both classical and modern music, and in interviews she even named current artists she liked. Eclecticism helped her get along with younger people and showed that she was prepared to bring together ancient and modern cultures. The Duchess was a mental health and humanitarian campaigner for a long period, and she also liked music. From 1971 until 1999, she was the royal patron of the Samaritans. She became an ambassador for the organization in 2016, showing her support for victims of emotional crises via her own experiences. Her ardent advocacy brings attention to resources and the need to stop making people feel bad about having mental illness. She sponsored UNICEF and other organizations that aid children and their families, which is in line with her philosophy of mixing art with humanitarian activity. Privacy, media intrusion, and living in the public eye. The media affected the Duchess even while she was doing quiet things. After the phone hacking incident in 2011, numerous news outlets' private investigators were suspected of seeking to get into the royal family's bank accounts. The incident showed how the royal family's demand for seclusion and the media's need for knowledge are always at odds with each other. It also showed how weak famous people are. Someone who had found safety in gentler hobbies was outraged by these privacy invasions. She kept working on her causes, even though she was often interrupted. In May 2016, she played at Buckingham Palace for young artists who were sponsored by her group. That year, she publicly backed the Samaritans. Even though she didn't make the news, she went to concerts, banquets, and other local events to keep interested in music and charity. In December 1989, Desert Island Discs had a nice picture of the Duchess. Mozart's Ave Verum Corpus, a do-it-yourself book, and a solar-powered lamp were the things she gave. These choices made me think of a lady who loved music and beauty, but was also practical and able to take care of herself. The do-it-yourself guide and solar light showed that she valued being able to accomplish things on her own, which is not something that aristocrats usually do. She always chose usefulness and modest competence over showing off, a new job in the public sector and less work. By 2002, the Duchess had less official obligations and lived a quieter life. In formal settings, she wanted to be called Catherine Kent or Catherine Duchess of Kent instead of Her Royal Highness. HRH was still used in official papers like the court circular, but the change made it different from a full-time senior royal. The option was both meaningful and useful. It let her choose her own activities and focus on her causes instead of being overwhelmed by the busy routine of a princess on the front lines. She secretly quit her full-time government job. She went to important family and national events, such as the wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton in 2011 and the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012. She thereafter withdrew from public life and did not attend Queen Elizabeth II's state funeral in 2022 or King Charles III's coronation in 2023. Health, personal preferences, and changing connections within the royal family, such as jobs and public profiles, all played a role in these decisions. It is wrong to say that her latter years were a retreat. After taking a step back, she concentrated on making changes. Her civic work was mostly about mentoring, educating, and quiet advocacy. She kept having meetings, going to concerts, and using her connections to help brilliant young musicians get their big break. She had moral power because she did things consistently, not because she spoke out. Long-term employment changes what people can do and makes them better. Personality and heritage. The Duchess of Kent is a good example of how one of the most well-known institutions in the world has changed throughout time. She worked for the royal family for decades with care and respect as a young lady from Yorkshire. She became a symbol of kindness in sports like Wimbledon. Her most important choices, talking frankly about loss and stillbirth, becoming a Catholic, and leaving the royal circle to teach at a public primary school, show that she valued being real above being formal. She spoke about hard things when older royals didn't, which made them less of a taboo. She had a lot of faith and was quite liberated when she became a Catholic. It also showed that she would do what she thought was right, even if it was against the law. She made a little but strong case by giving up royal pleasures for a piano bench in Hull. Both personal and ceremonial duty are morally good. People she knew in small groups said she was normal, yet down to earth. She liked everything to be clear, responsible, and regular. She also liked simple things like a good piece of music, seeing a kid learn the piano, and hearing a lovely word at the perfect moment. In her latter years, she was happy to be recognized for her constant effort instead of her big moves as seen in pictures from modest concerts, schools, and charity events. She may have done the most good by teaching kids to love music, calming those who are lonely, and quietly assisting budding musicians. Her kind teaching gave students confidence, her constant support helped groups grow, and her honesty started public discussions about mental illness and grief. Small, sometimes inconspicuous contributions are very important. She urged the monarchs to be more open-minded regarding duty and rank. Her choice to downsize, change how she acts in public, and look for work outside of the royal family illustrates how family members may reconcile their public and private goals. Her example is still important since the monarchy is changing to fit new societal norms, and members may choose how much they want to be involved. It's said that dignity and vulnerability could exist at the same time, and that public service might be quiet or ceremonial. Final thoughts. The late Catherine, Duchess of Kent, was known for her kindness and honesty. She calmly and boldly combined her public responsibility with her own ideals, showing that you can be a part of a historic institution and yet do what you think is right. Her life was steady and normal, but she was ready to change when her conscience and the situation called for it. She taught at a public elementary school, spoke up about mental health, and followed her spiritual path. A straightforward conclusion from her story is that influence may be subtle. She assisted kids' parents, bereaved friends, and budding musicians by promoting music, easing their pain, and, most importantly, helping them. She proved that living a life of purpose and compassion can have a lasting effect, and that patience, consistency, and attention are the things that change the most. Her example illustrates that being kind and responsible in public is just as important as being kind and responsible in private. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.